You are listening to a story on Lotus Tale Studios. Wishing you an enjoyable time. Please take a moment to subscribe to my channel, and if this story touches your heart, don't forget to like and drop a comment. At the New Year's Palace banquet, the Emperor granted me a marriage to Crown Prince Chen Wei. Everyone waited eagerly to see me humiliated. The entire capital knew the Crown Prince had long held his childhood sweetheart close to his heart, and she already lived within the Crown Prince's manor. If it weren't for the fact that Liu Yu was the daughter of a traitor, the position of Crown Princess would have fallen to her years ago. But I didn't care at all. 3 years ago, the man I loved died defending the northern border. Marrying anyone meant nothing to me now. Becoming Crown Princess was acceptable enough. The Zhang family were military generals, and they needed me to provide support for the clan here in the capital. Those noble ladies mocked me, saying I would never receive my husband's affection. I laughed at them in return, for they only knew how to fight over scraps of love within the inner courtyards. A crown princess who fulfills her duties has no need for a man's devotion as the last thing she requires. On our wedding night, Chen Wei and I had just finished drinking the ceremonial wine when a young maid's panicked voice called out from beyond the chamber. "Your Highness, my young mistress has suddenly developed a terrible headache. I fear her old illness has returned. Your Highness, please come see her. This servant begs you, if you don't go now, it may be too late." Chen Wei's expression changed immediately, and he stood up almost by instinct, but very quickly, he regained his composure and turned to look at me. I smiled faintly, not bothering to acknowledge Liu Yu's obvious schemes. "Your Highness, please go and check on her. A person's life is paramount. Everything else can wait." Chen Wei nodded at me with gratitude. "Forgive me. I'll go see what's wrong and return shortly." I smiled and nodded, saying nothing more. After Chen Wei left, I turned and instructed the servants to help me change my clothes. The old matron in the Crown Prince's manor carefully watched my expression. "Crown Princess, will you not wait for His Highness to return?" I glanced at her calmly. "You overthink matters, matron. His Highness will not be returning tonight." The matron wanted to say something but ultimately didn't dare open her mouth. The next morning, Chen Wei returned to the bridal chamber with an awkward expression on his face. Today, we had to enter the palace together to give thanks, and he feared I would complain to the Emperor and Empress about his absence. I simply stepped forward, gently took his hand, and consoled him softly. "Your Highness, since I have married you as your wife, from now on, we share honor and disgrace together. These are merely trivial matters within the inner quarters. How could they be worth disturbing the Emperor and Empress? Your Highness can rest assured. I know what to say." Chen Wei finally breathed a sigh of relief and squeezed my hand gently. "Thank you for understanding." After leaving the imperial palace, Chen Wei was bound by official duties and had to attend court. I returned to the manor alone first. When Chen Wei came back and stepped into the main courtyard, he saw me sitting properly in the seat of authority, while below 6 or 7 maids and matrons were bound and kneeling on the floor. Chen Wei's eyes immediately recognized Liu Yu's wet nurse among them. What is the meaning of this? Seeing her pillar of support return, Liu Yu's wet nurse immediately struggled violently, her mouth making muffled sounds continuously behind the cloth gag. I waved my hand slightly, and someone immediately stepped forward to remove the gag from her mouth. "Your Highness, please save this servant. The Crown Princess wants to kill me. Just because the Crown Princess is jealous that my young mistress receives favor, she wants to beat me to death and harm my mistress." Chen Wei's expression stiffened, but he didn't question me immediately. As the legitimate son of the Empress, as the Crown Prince, how could he be a fool? If I truly wanted to deal with Liu Yu, I could simply act directly. Why would I bother taking a roundabout way to punish her wet nurse? Meeting Chen Wei's examining gaze, I explained gently. This matron gathered people to drink and gamble in the garden in broad daylight. That matter itself wasn't particularly serious, but she went further and spread vivid stories, describing how Your Highness didn't stay in the bridal chamber last night and was intimate with Miss Liu instead. "Your Highness, I didn't take action because of personal anger, but because Your Highness's reputation cannot be tarnished. Your Highness is the Emperor's right hand, dealing with national affairs daily. Where you choose to rest upon returning to the manor should naturally be at your highness's discretion. Yet these lowly servants dare to gossip and spread rumors. To put it mildly, this creates discord in the manor. To put it seriously, this is spying on the Crown Prince's movements and could be seen as treason. After hearing this, Chen Wei's expression darkened considerably. Seeing the matron still wanted to argue, I had no desire to waste more words on the matter. Your Highness, I've already had people prepare carriages. These people will be immediately sent to the estate farm outside the city. If they offend again, we can simply sell them off. As for this matron, she is Miss Liu's wet nurse. Miss Liu has feelings for your Highness, and harsh punishment might pain her heart. I leave this person to your Highness's judgment. One warning should be enough to prevent her from repeating this offense. I had originally planned to leave after speaking, but Chen Wei raised his hand to stop me. The Crown Princess speaks wisely. Even if the Son of Heaven commits a crime, he must be punished like a commoner. What makes her so special? Send them all to the estate farm. The matron's eyes rolled back and she immediately fainted on the spot. That evening, Liu Yu finally came to pay her respects to me. Looking at her face, deliberately displaying satisfaction and confidence, I found her both foolish and pitiful. She was a traitor's daughter. No matter how much the Crown Prince loved her in this life, she could only ever be a concubine at best. Moreover, Chen Wei and I already shared honor and disgrace together. Even if he hated me, he couldn't touch my position as Crown Princess. What would she gain by offending me? Didn't her life in the inner manor rest entirely in my hands? Crown Princess, please forgive me. This servant has always suffered from severe headaches. In the past, whenever the illness struck, no matter how busy His Highness was, he would stay by my side to comfort me. This time, this lowly person was thoughtless and forgot it was His Highness and the Crown Princess's wedding day, so I hastily sent someone to fetch him. I only hope the Crown Princess will not take it to heart. She overthinks matters. I truly don't care at all. I took the tea she offered, exchanged a few courteous remarks, and then dismissed her. With my status, deliberately making things difficult for her would be no different from lowering myself to her level. That evening, Chen Wei naturally had to stay with me to maintain appearances. While helping him change his outer robes, I conversed gently. Your Highness, today I just punished Miss Liu's wet nurse. I'm afraid she feels somewhat upset about the matter. Miss Liu has been in the manor for a long time, always obedient and gentle, serving your Highness wholeheartedly. Only because her father committed crimes was she not granted a formal title or position. It's truly rather unfair to her considering her devotion. I think from now on, Miss Liu's provisions and treatment should follow the standard for imperial concubines. After all, these are matters within our own household. Outsiders have no say in it. Chen Wei was very surprised that I would treat Liu Yu so generously and felt even more guilty for having left me on our wedding night. Hearing his sincere apology, I simply smiled and gently took his hand. Your Highness, we are husband and wife of one heart. Isn't it too formal to say such things between us? Though our wedding was delayed by one night, that evening Chen Wei's manner toward me was clearly different from before. Feeling the tenderness in his every gesture, I responded sincerely and kind. The spring night was warm, a night of complete intimacy. Chen Wei was merely fulfilling the responsibility of a crown prince, of a husband. But to Liu Yu, this was a heavy blow she hadn't expected. They had developed feelings in their youth and promised each other a lifetime together. Liu Yu had never imagined that one day she would have to share Chen Wei's affection with another woman. Even though she later knew she couldn't become the crown prince's legitimate wife, she had always fantasized that Chen Wei would be cold to his legitimate wife for her sake, trampling on the dignity of all the noble young ladies in the capital to favor only her. After seeing Chen Wei off in the afternoon, the steward came to report that Liu Yu had smashed a room full of vases and decorations in her anger. I raised my hand to rub my slightly sore lower back. Send her some better replacements. Don't let rumors reach His Highness's ears and trouble him. Unfortunately, my tolerance was seen by Liu Yu as provocation and mockery. Chen Wei had barely returned to the manor when Liu Yu's maid invited him over to her quarters. Seeing his beloved concubine's eyes red from crying, Chen Wei was indeed distressed. Liu Yu immediately seized the chance to complain. Your Highness, does the Crown Princess dislike me? I'm so afraid. On the wedding night, Your Highness stayed with me instead of her. The Crown Princess must hate me terribly. Your Highness, she might secretly harm me to death. Your Highness doesn't know how many vicious schemes women in the inner quarters possess. They can kill without leaving any trace. If these words had been said yesterday, they might have swayed Chen Wei's opinion. But at this moment, Chen Wei only looked coldly at the newly replaced antiques and expensive decorations in the room and gently pushed Liu Yu away from his embrace. The Crown Princess comes from the manor of the State Guardian General. The Zhang family is utterly loyal with strict family discipline. She is not the type to compete for favor and scheme with concubines in the inner manor like some common woman. You need only fulfill your duties properly. The Crown Princess absolutely will not make things difficult for you without reason. Stop thinking such nonsense and creating problems. Liu Yu stood there stunned, unable to believe what she was hearing. Your Highness. After that incident, for some time, Liu Yu used every means available to keep Chen Wei by her side. I was actually pleased with this arrangement and occasionally even personally encouraged Chen Wei to visit her quarters. Chen Wei was the Crown Prince. Beyond personal feelings, he bore responsibility for the empire and the realm. In youth, one can easily promise a lifetime together. But anyone with eyes could see such words were unreliable and childish. The court, the imperial harem, noble clans, and powerful ministers, these forces intertwined in complex ways. Even the current emperor couldn't favor only one person without consequences. Just when Liu Yu thought she had once again gained the upper hand over me, I took the initiative to invite Chen Wei back to my quarters. Chen Wei thought I was jealous and was about to explain his actions when the object I placed in his hand cut him off completely. What is this? I smiled and pointed to the item in the wooden box. This is called buckwheat. Has Your Highness ever seen it before? Chen Wei was the Crown Prince. Though not entirely ignorant of agriculture, he wasn't particularly familiar with farm products either. He shook his head honestly, and I gently pulled him to sit beside me. Your Highness, every year in spring, the Emperor personally leads the princes to plough the ceremonial field, demonstrating our dynasty's emphasis on agriculture and the people's livelihood. Your Highness, as Crown Prince, should naturally lead your brothers in sharing the Emperor's burden. This buckwheat is a grain variety my father purchased from foreign merchants, later selected and improved by frontier farmers over several seasons. It's cold-resistant, drought-resistant, and has very high yields. It's a life-saving grain for the common people in the border regions who struggle with harsh conditions. It's just that our dynasty's grain tax regulations are based on millet and rice. So even though buckwheat is excellent, it hasn't been widely planted yet. At the frontier, during this year's spring ploughing ceremony, Your Highness might as well present this to the Emperor. If in the future, through the imperial family's efforts, this variety spreads throughout the entire realm, Your Highness's merit will be immeasurable. The common people of our dynasty will surely remember the Emperor's and Your Highness's benevolence for generations. Chen Wei's eyes immediately lit up with understanding. He clearly understood the deeper meaning behind my words. Though he was the Empress's legitimate son, Chen Wei wasn't the only one capable of succeeding to the throne. The current emperor had 6 sons in total. Excluding those still studying in the Imperial Academy, there were already 3 grown princes attending court alongside Chen Wei. Prince Jing and Prince Yu, though they didn't openly show any intention to compete for the throne, both had the support of their maternal clan's power and influence behind them. If Chen Wei couldn't secure his position firmly, they would likely not hesitate to take his place given the opportunity. At this moment, my presenting the buckwheat was undoubtedly handing him a solid chess piece to protect his position as Crown Prince and future Emperor. A Crown Prince who carries the realm in his heart, from officials to commoners, who wouldn't praise his virtue and capability? Chen Wei was moved and kissed my cheek lightly. I was caught unprepared and immediately blushed completely. The servants in the room also quickly withdrew to give us privacy. I gently scolded and patted him lightly, and Chen Wei burst into hearty laughter. This matter was something only Chen Wei and I understood the political value behind, But in the eyes of the manor's people, it appeared as the Crown Prince and Crown Princess being deeply in love, harmonious and joyful. Chen Wei happily let these rumors spread and even secretly released news to the outside so that the entire capital believed that we husband and wife were united in heart and inseparable. After that, whether Chen Wei was too busy or simply couldn't be bothered to explain to Liu Yu, in any case, Liu Yu believed the rumors were true and smashed another room full of belongings in her jealous rage. This time I couldn't maintain my previous tolerance and generosity. Send her some different items to replace what she broke, but deduct the cost of the damaged ones directly from her monthly provisions. The old steward smiled knowingly and accepted the order. After the spring plowing ceremony, Chen Wei gradually became even busier with state affairs. The Crown Prince's heartfelt concern for the people made the emperor view him with different eyes and began entrusting him with more government affairs to handle personally. Once one finds achievement in political matters, one no longer becomes immersed in romantic sentiments and petty emotions. As Crown Princess, when Chen Wei was busy with state affairs, I naturally had to take care of other matters for him. From the moment I took over managing the Crown Prince's manor, all information related to Chen Wei in the capital was in my hands. Building a good reputation for Chen Wei was my responsibility as his wife and political partner. Very soon, words of praise for Chen Wei spread throughout the capital like wildfire. His Highness the Crown Prince has reserved rooms at inns for poor scholars coming to the capital for examinations, allowing them to stay free of charge. His Highness the Crown Prince has sent instructors to teach at the orphanages in the city, ensuring even the poorest children receive education. The Guangdong Bridge outside the capital had long fallen into disrepair with local officials paying no attention to it. His Highness the Crown Prince personally sent people to supervise the repairs at his own expense. Stories like these spread by word of mouth everywhere, making Chen Wei become the ideal crown prince in people's hearts. The empress even specially summoned me into the palace to praise me, saying frankly that she had indeed chosen the right virtuous helpmate for the crown prince. Chen Wei's attitude toward me also grew increasingly intimate and respectful. Though there was no romantic love between us, we were indeed close comrades with shared purpose and goals. Before shared values and ambition, romantic affection meant nothing at all. Seeing Chen Wei and me growing closer day by day, Liu Yu finally couldn't sit still and accept the situation. She secretly stopped taking the contraceptive medicine I had arranged for all concubines, planning to bear an imperial heir early to consolidate her position in the manor. I understood the situation in the capital even better, let alone just the happenings in a small crown prince's manor. When Chen Wei had just entered the manor gates one evening, Liu Yu's maid was already tearfully blocking his path. Chen Wei frowned with displeasure. Speak clearly about what exactly your mistress has done wrong. If she hasn't done anything improper, the crown princess wouldn't confine her to the small Buddha hall for no reason. The maid hadn't expected Chen Wei to ask for the reason first. In her mind, the crown prince must immediately go rescue her mistress and then return to scold the crown princess for being jealous and cruel. Seeing she couldn't answer coherently, Chen Wei decisively walked past and went straight to my quarters. Looking at his steps, he was hurrying. Yet his expression showed no anger at all toward me. I knew that having the maid go complain was indeed the right move on my part. Your Highness, Miss Liu stopped taking her contraceptive medicine on her own without permission. I merely gave her a light warning and time to reflect. That's all. Chen Wei didn't mind at all, smiling and shaking his head. No man wouldn't want the woman he loves to bear him children, and he was naturally no exception to this rule. Previously, the Empress had strictly supervised Liu Yu, making it clear that she absolutely couldn't have children before the Crown Princess entered the manor and produced an heir. But now that the manor had been handed over to me to manage, the Empress naturally no longer interfered in these small matters. Seeing Chen Wei about to speak on Liu Yu's behalf out of old affection, I cut in first. Your Highness, among the 3 princes currently attending court, Prince Jing has only one legitimate daughter under his knee, while Prince Yu has 2 sons born of concubines. Your Highness, the Emperor, the Empress, and all the court ministers are eagerly awaiting the birth of the imperial eldest grandson from your line. Your Highness's first son must absolutely be born of the legitimate wife for political reasons. The influence that child will have on the court situation and your position, I trust your highness understands this even more clearly than I do. Miss Liu is your highness's beloved concubine. How could I make things difficult for her without cause? I also hope our manor will be filled with descendants in the future. I only ask that she endure this small grievance a while longer. Your highness's future and the stability of the realm are the most important matters for this entire manor. Chen Wei was silent for a moment, then gently took my hand in his. The crown princess considers everything thoroughly and with great wisdom. With the manor entrusted to you, I am completely at ease. That day, Chen Wei still went to visit Liu Yu to explain the situation. After all, he couldn't bear to let her suffer in confinement without understanding why. But when he entered the small Buddha hall and saw soft quilts, comfortable cushions, fine brushes and ink, refreshments, and tea, all fully provided, and that I had only made her copy Buddhist sutras 10 times as reflection, Chen Wei couldn't understand what there was to feel aggrieved about. He ignored her tearful pleas for sympathy and turned to leave. In early summer, the imperial physician diagnosed that I was with child. The emperor was greatly pleased and sent so many rewards to the crown prince's manor that 2 courtyards couldn't hold them all. Chen Wei was overjoyed beyond measure, understanding even more deeply the significance of having a legitimate son for imperial power and succession. Everyone in the entire crown prince's manor was radiant with joy, naturally including Liu Yu as well. Though she regretted not being able to bear the first son for Chen Wei, my pregnancy was actually an opportunity for her to regain favor. By convention, when the legitimate wife is pregnant, other women would be arranged to attend to the husband's needs. She was the only concubine in the manor and the one who held a place in the crown prince's heart. From now on, Chen Wei staying in her quarters every night would be considered perfectly reasonable and expected. I couldn't be bothered with such petty scheming and didn't care. This rare opportunity, I had bigger matters to attend to that would secure our future. Take in imperial concubines. Chen Wei choked on his water and coughed violently. I quickly stepped forward to pat his back gently. Your highness truly still acts like a child sometimes. Chen Wei took advantage of the situation to grasp my hand firmly. I've barely gotten you pregnant, and now you want to take in imperial concubines for me? Won't people think me heartless and ungrateful to my wife? I laughed and lightly touched his nose with my fingertip. Since I proposed this matter, naturally, I won't let your highness bear a bad reputation from it. Chen Wei still didn't understand why I was so determined to take in imperial concubines at this particular time. Your highness, do you remember the scholar from the Hanlin Academy, Elder Scholar Wu? Chen Wei nodded immediately. Who doesn't know that gentleman's reputation as a great Confucian scholar with disciples spread across the entire realm? In terms of standing in scholars' hearts, none can compare to him. I poured fresh tea and placed it in his hand carefully. The elder scholar and his wife had only one son. Unfortunately, he died 10 years ago in an accident. 3 years ago, the widow of the Wu family's son also passed away from illness, leaving only an orphaned young lady living with her paternal grandparents. That young lady grew up beside her grandparents, read many books, and possessed outstanding talent and learning. It's just that upon reaching marriageable age, she had to observe mourning for her mother, and thus missed her marriage window. Now her mourning period is nearly complete. I think I should personally go to the Wu manor to propose marriage, then request the emperor and empress to issue an imperial decree to welcome her into our household with full ceremony and honor. Chen Wei was silent, only quietly gazing at me with a thoughtful expression. I calmly met his gaze without flinching. Your highness, there are only 2 positions for imperial concubines in the manor. We must absolutely choose carefully and wisely. Forming alliances with powerful ministers will invite criticism and accusations of forming factions. Better to choose the orphaned young lady of the Wu family. This both demonstrates the imperial family's respect for the elder scholar and wins even more admiration from scholars everywhere for your highness's virtue. Chen Wei laughed warmly. In choosing a wife, one must choose virtue. The sage's words are indeed correct, and you embody this perfectly. Chen Wei and I reached agreement on the plan, and the subsequent matters were naturally my responsibility to execute. I personally entered the palace to petition the emperor and empress, earning unstinting praise from both for my thoughtfulness. Afterward, I sent someone with a message to the Wu manor to gauge their interest. Seeing the elder scholar and his wife agree to consider the proposal, I immediately brought generous gifts and personally went to propose marriage formally. Though I was crown princess, before the elder scholar and his wife, I still consistently maintained the courtesy due to juniors and showed proper respect. The crown prince's manor gave the Wu family complete dignity and face, humbling itself to the utmost. People in the capital joked that it was the Wu family's young lady marrying into the crown prince's manor, not the crown prince taking a concubine. Chen Wei sat across from me eating a pastry one afternoon. This too was the crown princess's arrangement and calculation, wasn't it? I raised my eyebrows slightly. If something is to be done, it must be done well and thoroughly. What does it matter if I bow before elder scholar Wu? As long as your highness's reputation spreads far and wide, it's worth any small sacrifice. Nevertheless, I was carrying a child and shouldn't overexert myself with too many responsibilities. Therefore, Chen Wei personally went to the Empress's palace to request a senior managing matron to help me handle manor affairs during my pregnancy. The Empress was delighted and even remarked that the Crown Prince now knew how to cherish his wife and was no longer entangled by manipulative women. On the wedding day between Chen Wei and Miss Wu Qing, the entire manor celebrated festively with decorations and joy. Only Liu Yu was unwilling to accept it, refusing food and drink all day in protest. Seeing Chen Wei enter the bridal chamber, Liu Yu planned to use her old trick again to summon him. Her little maid had barely shouted one sentence outside the door when my people gagged her and led her away quietly. The managing matron spoke in a gentle yet firm tone to the newlyweds. Your Highness and imperial concubine Wu need not worry. The Crown Princess has already sent someone to summon a physician for Miss Liu to ensure she's well. Wu Qing didn't understand the full situation, but Chen Wei smiled knowingly. I understand. Just let the Crown Princess arrange everything as she sees fit. Liu Yu was merely suffering from lovesickness and jealousy. What real need was there for a physician? But out of respect for Chen Wei's past feelings for her, I still personally went to visit her the next day. Seeing that the visitor wasn't Chen Wei, Liu Yu's face clearly showed disappointment and resentment. I sat properly in the seat of authority, completely ignoring her childish sulking and dramatics. Miss Liu, you were originally a traitor's daughter. According to our dynasty's laws, you should rightfully have been sent to the pleasure quarters or executed. But the Empress took pity on you. His Highness cherished you. And so an exception was made to allow you into the manor as a concubine without title. You should be grateful for this mercy. His Highness is the Crown Prince, the future sovereign of our realm. His status can never belong to just one woman. You understand this clearly even without me explaining. You could never occupy the position of Crown Princess. Nor would any imperial concubine position come to you given your background. Since that's the case, you should know your place and not fail His Highness's affection for you. I manage this manor without making things difficult for you and am willing to let you serve His Highness and share his burdens. But my tolerance toward concubines doesn't mean I'll endure forever without limits. If in the future I catch you making mistakes or causing trouble, I will absolutely handle it according to the rules, showing no mercy whatsoever. From beginning to end, I never displayed any possessiveness or jealousy toward Chen Wei. I only let her know that I was the mistress of this manor and teaching her proper behavior was my duty. Precisely because of this calm approach, Liu Yu became even more desperate and unstable. If I were jealous and envious like other women, she would have 100,000 ways to drive a wedge between Chen Wei and me. But as a mere concubine who dared to provoke a crown princess wielding real power, it was no different from throwing an egg against a rock. When Wu Qing entered the manor, she further divided Chen Wei's attention and time. Liu Yu painfully witnessed Chen Wei's feelings for her gradually fade like ink in water. How could she accept this reality? A month later, Liu Yu finally found an opportunity to prove she was still favored by Chen Wei and still held importance. Princess Pingyang was celebrating her birthday. The Crown Prince had to bring family members to offer congratulations. My condition made it inconvenient to travel, so by rights, Wu Qing should accompany Chen Wei. But Liu Yu managed to win that opportunity through manipulation. This humble concubine was once close friends with the princess's maternal cousin. Taking this occasion to pay my respects would be perfectly appropriate. Besides, she's been confined in the manor too long, frequently complaining of boredom. This is a perfect chance for her to go out and relax her spirits. What does the Crown Princess think? It seemed Chen Wei also understood that this matter ultimately required my agreement to proceed. I didn't directly oppose the idea, but simply smiled and asked him a question. Does your highness wish to hear pleasant words or the truth? Chen Wei couldn't help but laugh. What's the difference between them? I gently fanned myself, explaining warmly. If pleasant words, then naturally I agree. Your highness is the crown prince, and Miss Liu is acquainted with the female relatives of the princess's manor. Her accompanying your highness to the banquet wouldn't raise anyone's objections on the surface. Chen Wei raised his eyebrows curiously. And the truth? I set down my fan, my gaze becoming serious. If the truth, then your highness shouldn't bring Miss Liu. Your highness is a noble prince. It's understandable that your highness isn't familiar with the complex protocols of noble ladies in the capital. Though Miss Liu is your highness's beloved concubine, at the end of the day, she is merely a concubine, neither legitimate wife nor imperial concubine with official rank. I don't say this to demean Miss Liu. I know the fault doesn't lie with her background. It's just that in gatherings of women, people value matching social status above all else. The legitimate wife's presence demonstrates respect and regard for the other party. Bringing a concubine would make others feel they aren't worthy of associating with the legitimate wife of the crown prince's manor. Especially at an occasion like the princess's birthday celebration, the censors might even submit memorials the next day criticizing impropriety. Your highness may not be criticized to your face, but gossip behind your back will be hard to avoid. I believe the gains wouldn't be worth the losses. Chen Wei frowned, clearly never having considered these intricate matters before. But he had already promised Liu Yu, and now telling her he'd changed his mind would be difficult to articulate without losing face. Seeing his troubled expression, I immediately knew what troubled him. I smiled and gently fanned him. Your highness, Wu Qing has just entered the manor. Your highness should take her to the banquet. Once there, introduce her to the princess's sisters-in-law and cousins. It's also an opportunity for her to become acquainted with the noble ladies of the capital and establish connections. Wu Qing is learned and scholarly with an extraordinary bearing. Going with your highness will represent the dignity of the crown prince's manor perfectly. I also sympathize with Miss Liu being confined to the inner quarters for so long. How about this? Next time your highness has leisure, take her to the estate outside the city to rest for a few days. I'll arrange everything thoroughly and ensure she's satisfied with the trip. What do you think? I analyzed the advantages and disadvantages clearly and even offered a fair compensation plan. Chen Wei had no reason to refuse my logic. He agreed to everything just as I had predicted he would. At the princess's birthday banquet, Wu Qing was invited to compose poetry on the spot. Her extraordinary talent amazed everyone present and greatly increased Chen Wei's prestige among the nobility. Since she proved her capability and brought honor to the manor, she deserved proper reward. The next day, I led Wu Qing into the palace and praised her lavishly before the empress. The empress was perceptive and immediately bestowed generous rewards upon Wu Qing for her talents. A few days later, Chen Wei brought Liu Yu back from the estate outside the city. As soon as he entered the manor, he saw Wu Qing and me playing chess together in the pavilion. Wu Qing sat with her back to him, smiling and sighing to me. In the past, my grandfather used to say I played chess terribly. I refused to accept it then, but now playing against the crown princess, I truly see I have no talent for strategy. Chen Wei's laughter rang out behind her warmly. Wu Qing quickly stood and performed proper courtesies. It's not that she plays poorly, it's that the crown princess's chess skills are superb beyond compare. Don't blame yourself. Even I can't defeat her at strategy. Wu Qing exchanged a few more polite pleasantries and then tactfully withdrew to give us privacy. Seeing Chen Wei's expression was quite good, I inquired about Liu Yu's situation. Unexpectedly, Chen Wei waved his hand dismissively. Don't mention her anymore. The older she gets, the less she resembles her younger self. She's even picked up the habit of being unreasonable and causing trouble over nothing. I curved my lips in a slight smile, borrowing the imperial physician's instructions to change the subject. It seemed Liu Yu had truly been spoiled rotten by Chen Wei's past indulgence. She thought she naturally should occupy Chen Wei's entire attention forever. But now I controlled the Crown Prince's manor, and Wu Qing was gentle, refined, and understood propriety. How much erosion could youthful feelings withstand from constant jealousy and resentment? In late autumn of that year, the court received urgent reports that Jiangnan had suffered major flooding. The national treasury momentarily couldn't mobilize sufficient relief funds quickly enough. Chen Wei and I discussed it privately and decided to donate 200,000 taels of silver in the name of the Crown Prince's manor. Though this action would displease some court ministers who controlled the treasury, it both helped the emperor reduce pressure and won the common people's hearts. With the Crown Prince displaying such generosity, other high ministers naturally couldn't stand idle and look bad. Throughout the capital, all the prestigious noble families participated in donations. In just 3 days, the court gathered 2 million taels for relief. The Vice Minister of Works personally led the relief mission to the flooded regions. While the court attended to saving the people, the women of the rear palace also needed to share the burden together. The Empress temporarily reduced provisions to all palaces, and I also cut the allowances for all residents of the Crown Prince's manor by half as a symbolic gesture. Though these actions weren't particularly significant in actual impact, they served as an example from the imperial family for the common people to follow. I had thought no one would object to these measures because in truth, within the Crown Prince's manor, only Wu Qing and I received high provisions. The servants already lived with modest means. I hadn't touched their monthly wages at all. Unexpectedly, it was Liu Yu who spoke up first, seeking out Chen Wei and making a dramatic scene. Because of the relief efforts, Chen Wei hadn't visited her these past days. He had originally planned to console her with a few gentle words out of guilt for neglecting her. But upon understanding the true situation, he immediately became furious. Right now, Jiangnan faces catastrophe and disaster. Even my mother, the Empress, has reduced food and clothing in the palace. The Crown Princess nominally cut provisions to manor residents by half, but your share hasn't been reduced by a single coin. If she hadn't said anything, I wouldn't have known the Crown Princess used her own dowry funds to subsidize your quarter's expenses. And now you're causing trouble and complaining just because you're missing a few pieces of meat at meals. The Crown Princess is pregnant yet still eats vegetarian and recites Buddhist prayers for the disaster victims. Yet you show no gratitude and even fabricate stories that she's stingy and mistreating you deliberately. Liu Yu stood there stunned, unable to respond. She thought she had grasped my weakness, never expecting to completely expose her own selfish nature before Chen Wei instead. Chen Wei and Liu Yu parted on angry terms that day. I heard the servants report the reason for their argument, but still pretended to know nothing about it. Just as the first snow of the season fell upon the capital, I smoothly gave birth to a healthy baby boy. From then on, Chen Wei had his eldest son, and the imperial family welcomed the eldest imperial grandson. Chen Wei's position as crown prince was now solid as rock and unshakable. As long as he didn't commit treason or major crimes, his future ascension to the throne was already as certain as nails hammered into wood. Since I entered the manor, everything had gone smoothly for Chen Wei in both politics and reputation. Though he didn't believe in gods and Buddhas, he felt as though heaven had sent me to assist him in his destiny. Therefore, Chen Wei personally went to the State Protection Temple to light 2 eternal lamps for me and our son, requesting 2 protective amulets for our safety. The Crown Prince and Crown Princess's passionate affection and partnership, husband and wife united in heart and purpose, had long become a beautiful tale throughout the capital. For a long time now, no one had even mentioned that within the Crown Prince's manor, there still lived a childhood sweetheart concubine from his past. Liu Yu grew melancholy and fell seriously ill, watching her face grow haggard day by day. I could only sigh silently at her self-destructive behavior. I wouldn't allow her any mishaps or death. Though Chen Wei and she were gradually growing distant, this person absolutely couldn't die before Chen Wei's eyes at this time. Otherwise, she would become an indelible scar in his heart and might even create unpredictable variables for me in the future. My care for Liu Yu during her illness was so excessive that even Chen Wei felt it was too much concern. I not only invited the most experienced physician from the Imperial Medical Bureau, but all medicines and tonics were chosen of the finest quality available. To stabilize her emotions, I even suspended Wu Qing's attendance duties, allowing Chen Wei to stay by Liu Yu's side daily to comfort her. Wu Qing showed no displeasure whatsoever at this arrangement. She was also an intelligent person who saw through everything clearly and understood the political game. With the most thorough medical care and regaining Chen Wei's attention and favor, Liu Yu was no longer melancholy and her health gradually recovered over time. After recovering from illness, she received another piece of good news. She was finally pregnant with child. In truth, I had long ago stopped her contraceptive medicine and allowed her to invite physicians to regulate her health for conception. It was just that her worries and emotional distress were too heavy, so she hadn't conceived until now. Since becoming pregnant, Liu Yu's temperament began to change again in unfortunate ways. Whether from consuming too many rich tonics or not, she started acting entitled, using her pregnancy as an excuse to request being elevated to imperial concubine status. Though Chen Wei cared for her out of old affection, he wasn't so besotted as to lose all reason and political sense. Seeing him appear troubled by her demands, I calmly spoke up with a suggestion. Your Highness, the matter of establishing imperial concubines should still be decided according to your Highness's political needs and wishes. After so many years of marriage, Chen Wei understood me to some degree. When you say that, it means you don't approve of her request, doesn't it? I laughed lightly. I'm not exactly opposed to the idea. Just let me speak frankly. Actually, I already have a more suitable candidate in mind. Why doesn't your Highness consider it? Years ago, the old General Han of the Western Southern Army died of illness while in office. This could also be considered dying for the country in service. A lifetime of military campaigns earned him great loyalty from the Western Southern Army troops. The Han family's young lady is the beloved daughter born late to the couple, a pearl in their palm. While alive, the old general said he didn't want to marry his daughter to another military general. Because generals guard the frontier, husband and wife inevitably face long separation. Yet among the civil officials, none caught his discerning eye as worthy. The Han family isn't a prominent noble house in the capital, but they hold real military power in the south. Several of their sons are generals who have distinguished themselves in battle. Currently, my father and elder brother are stationed in the north. If your Highness also has influence in the Western Southern Army, then within this capital, who would dare compete with your Highness for power? Chen Wei immediately became serious and attentive. What concerns does the Crown Princess have about this plan? I smiled lightly in response. Not concerns exactly, just thinking ahead a bit for all possibilities. The more chess pieces in your Highness's hand, the more stable the overall political situation becomes. If anyone wants to fight to mutual destruction with you, they'll have to weigh the costs and benefits carefully. Chen Wei gently took my hand in his. I understand your wisdom. Husband and wife of one heart, listening to you is never wrong. Chen Wei had already rejected Liu Yu's unrealistic romantic delusions. She relied on being pregnant to cause a disturbance and make demands, but ultimately only earned Chen Wei's cold dismissal. As for me, I had far too much experience in proposing imperial concubines for Chen Wei by now. Just as I arranged, the imperial decree from the emperor came very quickly approving the match. They only needed to wait until next year when Miss Han completed her mourning period, and she could properly and legitimately marry into the Crown Prince's manor. I had never lowered myself to compete for favor with concubines, much less would I ever mistreat a woman carrying Chen Wei's flesh and blood. Therefore, though Liu Yu couldn't see Chen Wei regularly, her food, clothing, and daily necessities were all of the finest quality, to the extent that even some imperial concubines in the palace couldn't compare to her treatment. But I knew what Liu Yu needed wasn't material comforts and luxuries. And what she truly wanted, I couldn't possibly give her. Chen Wei refused to set foot in her quarters voluntarily. How could I force him to go to her against his will? Liu Yu's mood was depressed throughout, making her entire pregnancy extremely difficult and troubled. Finally, at only 8 months along, she gave birth prematurely to a baby girl. The imperial physician had to remain in the manor for half a month before managing to preserve the fragile child's life. This was Chen Wei's eldest daughter, and he actually cherished and valued her greatly despite her gender. Precisely because of this paternal love, he resented Liu Yu even more for her indifference to their daughter's life and health. She had even dared to use the baby's life and well-being to threaten her own emotional needs. This truly went against human nature and motherly instinct. Only with great difficulty did we wait until the baby's first-month celebration when Chen Wei came to discuss with me privately, wanting to give the daughter to Wu Qing to raise properly. This matter wasn't uncommon in the imperial family and was actually beneficial for the child's future. The higher the adoptive mother's status, the more the child's future path and marriage prospects would broaden. But I hesitated somewhat about the timing. Your Highness, Miss Liu's state of mind is unstable and heavy, and she hasn't yet recovered from childbirth. If we take the child away now, I fear she won't be able to bear it emotionally. Chen Wei weighed the pros and cons carefully and ultimately abandoned that intention for the time being. I thought Liu Yu would behave herself and be grateful for a few days, but she unexpectedly pulled a foolish move that harmed only herself in the end. She thought Chen Wei's coldness toward her was because he had tired of the old and loved only new women. So, she copied common palace tactics she'd heard about, using a new person to try to retain his favor. She personally drugged Chen Wei with an aphrodisiac, then sent her own young maid to his bed. One night of manipulated romance not only failed to win back Chen Wei's heart, but completely destroyed the last thread of trust between them forever. Chen Wei wasn't some ordinary man who could be manipulated, he was the reigning crown prince. Today, she could administer an aphrodisiac to control him. Tomorrow, who knew it could be poison to kill him? When I heard the shocking news and rushed over to Liu Yu's quarters, she was already kneeling together with that little maid, crying and begging for forgiveness desperately. I immediately ordered everyone else to withdraw, leaving only a few trusted attendants to watch the courtyard and prevent word from spreading. This was the first time I had seen Chen Wei this angry and coldly furious. Seeing me arrive, Liu Yu started acting childish and defensive again. In her deluded eyes, this was a private matter between her and Chen Wei. I had no right to interfere in their relationship. Your Highness takes one concubine after another into the manor. Don't you want more sisters to attend you and share your bed? Chunhua has served me since childhood and has a decent appearance. When the Crown Princess chooses people for your Highness, that's called virtue and wisdom. But when I arranged things myself for your pleasure, it's suddenly a transgression and crime. Seeing Chen Wei about to explode with rage, I quickly signaled for Liu Yu to stop talking immediately. When would this foolish woman finally understand that the relationship between Chen Wei and the women of the rear quarters wasn't that of husband and wife built on love, but of sovereign and subject built on hierarchy? Chen Wei was so angry he laughed coldly, too furious to say another word to her. He issued an order directly. Send Miss Liu and that maid to the distant estate, never to return to the capital again. As soon as Chen Wei finished speaking, both Liu Yu and I were stunned by the severity. Her voice trembled with disbelief. Your Highness, how can you treat me like this after everything? Chen Wei turned his back on her, sighed once deeply, then said nothing more and resolutely left the room. Watching that decisive departing figure, I knew this time he had truly let go of the past. Liu Yu refused to accept the punishment, but didn't dare openly defy the Crown Prince's will. Her final struggle was wanting to take her infant daughter along with her. Her thinking wasn't wrong strategically. As long as she kept the child, sooner or later, Chen Wei would bring mother and daughter back to the capital out of paternal love. But she had underestimated my resolve and political calculation. Once Chen Wei had abandoned her, I certainly couldn't show any mercy or weakness. Miss Liu, you relied on past favor to become arrogant beyond measure, daring to drug the Crown Prince with substances. Do you know this crime could lead to your entire clan's execution for treason? Now His Highness has mercifully spared your life. You should obediently go to the estate and repent for your actions. As for the child, don't even dream of taking her. She is the Crown Prince Manor's second daughter. After you leave, naturally the imperial concubine will raise her properly. She won't become a chess piece for you to threaten or manipulate the Crown Prince in the future. But I promise you this, I won't mistreat her. I'll raise her properly with care and find her a good match for marriage in the future when the time comes. Liu Yu's resistance was ultimately futile and meaningless. She could only tearfully leave the capital in disgrace. Youthful love and promises ultimately became two people who looked at each other with disgust and resentment. Not long after her departure, another imperial concubine entered the manor as planned. Chen Wei's political power became even more secure and unshakable. The other princes gradually realized they had no realistic chance to compete and withdrew to accept their lots in life. Many years later, Chen Wei ascended the throne as emperor. On the grand ceremony day, when I was invested as empress, I received news from the distant estate that Liu Yu had taken her own life in despair. She thought her death could awaken some nostalgia in Chen Wei for their past love and youthful promises. Little did she know that at this time the emperor held the entire realm in his hands with countless young ladies yet to enter the palace in the future. That lover from years ago had long faded in his memory like morning mist. Even her face he could no longer recall clearly when asked. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or made you think, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and share Lotus Tale Studios to help bring more stories to life. Until the next tale, may wisdom guide your path.